Update 5.2 is going to be absolutely massive for Battlefield 5. There are some really major changes that are going to switch up how this game plays, and the most important ones have now just been detailed by community manager Adam Freeman in a blog post on the Battlefield website. I got early access to this blog post last night. We've got weapon balance changes to discuss, the introduction of community games, changes to soldier visibility, some spotting changes, and even details on the Lunge Mine. So, lots to discuss, but I've also got to shill for a second. Born to Shill merch. You guys supported it so much, and you asked for a hoodie design, so I made a hoodie design. This will be live for the next couple of weeks, and now, if you use the code COZY with a 0, not an O, I know it's a little bit weird, but you can get 10% off through till this Saturday. bit.ly/Westie shop or link in the description. Right, okay then, first of all, let's discuss the biggest topic of all the big topics that we've got to discuss, these weapon balance changes, because we're not just looking at some small tweaks here, we are looking at fundamental changes to the balancing of weapons in Battlefield 5. That includes the time to kill of these weapons. Now, in Update 5.2, DICE is going to be addressing some of the damage over distance values of the different classes of weapons to, quote, provide healthier gameplay on objectives, end quote. Bolt-action carbines, sniper rifles, and anti-material rifles, they won't be seeing any changes in Update 5.2. They've previously been tweaked in patches going back towards the summer. Now, the team has provided some charts to show what these kind of changes are really going to look like in terms of bullets to kill, to make them easier to understand, and I'll be cycling those on the screen right now. The charts show how many bullets to kill a weapon takes alongside the distance attributed to that, so the further the distance, the more bullets it's going to take to kill due to damage drop-off. Now, the yellow line, or the orange line, that represents the current weapon bullet to kill value in Update 5.0, so what we're playing with right now in Battlefield 5. And the blue line is where the weapon is going to sit when Update 5.2 launches. So, in general, we are seeing more bullets to kill, and that means a longer time to kill in Update 5.2. Most weapons will require more bullets to kill at most ranges. Let's take the Thompson SMG as an example, so I can kind of explain it to you. At close range, so from 0 meters out to about 15 meters, it's going to take 1 to 2 more bullets to kill a player. As that distance increases along the x-axis, you can see it's going to take considerably more bullets to kill a player. Many more bullets than it does in Update 5.0. For the Thompson, DICE is stating that because of the high rate of fire that the weapon possesses, the small bullet to kill increase at close range won't really affect how the weapon plays all that much. It's still within its effective range. But once you push out of that effective range into medium and long range engagements, the weapon is now going to perform much, much worse. And the idea is that DICE wants to encourage switching to a different weapon if you're looking to get into medium and long range gunfights more consistently, or you need to use smoke to cover your advance on the enemy, closing the gap, and then taking advantage of the lower bullet to kill values at close range. Now, at long range, and I found this extremely funny, 100 meters plus, which really, if I'm being honest with you, isn't an area where you should be using the Thompson anyway, but with Update 5.2, it's now going to take 13 bullets to kill an enemy, as opposed to the 8 bullets that it currently takes in Update 5.0, so quite a significant change. Let's also look at the MG42 as well, so that you can see another example of this lengthening of time to kill. At close range, so within 10 meters, it's now going to take 1 more bullet to kill an enemy in Update 5.2, but as the distance increases again, you can see a larger gap forming between Update 5.0 and the new value 5.2, with more bullets being required the greater the distance grows. Similarly to the Thompson, due to the MG42's high rate of fire, and in the case of MMGs in Battlefield 5, the higher chance that you are going to be bipodded with the MG42, DICE has decided that those attributes are going to make up for this change, at medium and longer ranges. You're going to be able to fire more bullets at the enemy with a higher chance that those are going to hit, but you now have slightly reduced damage, so it's going to take a bit longer to kill people. Now, alongside these bullet-to-kill, time-to-kill changes, DICE will be making many other adjustments to weapons in Update 5.2. We're going to see updates to weapon recoil to make sure there is sufficient compensation for the lower damage output of these weapons. Rates of fire, they're going to be switched up as well, depending on the weapon, and certain specialization setups for some of the weapons, they might change as well, and that's all to aid in this reduction in damage by adding more benefits to other areas of the weapons. The overall reasoning behind these changes is that DICE wants to switch up the current meta of Battlefield 5, this one-size-fits-all mentality, and they want to provide players with a much wider range of weapon options that could be beneficial to use during gameplay. It's really no secret that there are some extremely popular weapons in Battlefield 5 right now, and some of the weapons just simply don't get used because they cannot compete due to their current setup. DICE is pretty much changing the setup of most of the weapons in the game to shake up the selection process and kind of reset everyone's expectations as to what the best weapons are for certain situations. In the Update 5.2 patch notes that will release alongside the December update, there will be a complete breakdown of all of these weapon changes. So that includes the damage output over distance, recoil, things like reload times, starting ammunition changes, and even more. So closer to the time of the patch, we're going to get a better picture of which weapons have been changed more drastically than some of the others. Now, I've not really given you my opinion so far, but I will give you my opinion here because I'm sure, as many of you remember, I did rather fiercely oppose a TTK change to Battlefield 5 back in December last year, just after the game launched. Now, I'm going to state that I like the current weapon balance in the game, the one that we're playing with right now in Battlefield 5 live gameplay update 5.0. I like that setup. But I can see areas of the overall setup that do need some attention. I think MMGs need a rethink, and it looks like that is going to happen with Update 5.2. I think that the Medic SMGs, they still don't feel quite competitive enough with the assault rifles and the light machine guns at certain points, and it now looks like the interplay between those weapons is going to be changing quite drastically. So there are improvements to be seen here with this overall change, but it does also look like that the more lethal TTK that Battlefield 5 has had since its launch is going away with Update 5.2. From the graphs we've got here and the basic information that we have in the blog post, it looks like a lot of the weapons, they're going to take more bullets to kill enemies at nearly all ranges. And that means that the general feel of the gunplay in Battlefield 5, it's going to change up quite a bit with this update. Now, personally, I'm quite sad that DICE has decided to go down this route. It's not the direction that I really wanted to see happen for the game, but I do also understand that we are now over a year past the launch of this game, and that is pretty much the right time to make significant changes if you're going to make them. The main reason I was so opposed to a TTK change in December last year is because DICE had spent, what, 6, 7, 8 months advertising a certain style of game that they'd made, and then just 3 weeks after the launch, they decided that that wasn't the right direction and they wanted to go and do something else, despite selling the game to everyone as something completely different to what they were about to implement. Now, we're not in that place anymore. We're seeing more new players coming into game than ever because of that Pacific update, which is brilliant. Players are returning after quitting through year one. They're giving the game another chance. It's pretty much now. Now is the right time to make significant changes, as I said, if you're going to make them. Are they the right changes for Battlefield 5? I'm not 100% sure. We're going to have to wait and see. Once the patch goes live, expect a video from me that breaks down the changes to the gunplay, the time to kill, and all of that good stuff, and I will give you my full and proper opinion then. Okay then, moving on now to some of the other changes, and for the next 3, I've got some lovely videos to show you all. First of all, let's talk about soldier visibility, or what DICE is calling in this update, soldier acquisition. In Update 5.2, DICE is going to make changes to the behaviour of enemy soldier icons when you approach them. Those are the ones that appear above enemy players' heads. Red icons will now appear within the close quarters combat range, around 15 meters, provided that the enemy is within the immediate field of view of the player. There are 2 stages to the icon as well, an empty icon and a populated icon. The empty icon is stage 1, and that simply signifies that the player you are seeing is an enemy player. As you get a little bit closer, the icon will populate with the class that that enemy is using, and that gives you more information about how that enemy could hurt you. If at any point within this 15-meter zone you hit an enemy with any kind of damage, the health bar of that enemy will also appear above their head, and that gives you more information about how much damage needs to be done before that enemy is killed. Now, these icons, these new ones, they're only visible to you and no one else, so you can't share these icons with squad mates or team members. If other players on your team, they want to see these icons, then they'll need to come and join you at the exact same spot and look where you're looking. This entire system can also be overridden if an enemy has been actively spotted by then taking damage from a sniper who's running the sniper combat role, or they've been spotted by a gadget or a vehicle. And the whole point of these changes is to help players quickly identify who is an enemy and who is a friendly player, and to try and reduce some of that surprising moment when an enemy kills you from a close range and you had absolutely no idea that they were standing right there. This system was actually present in older Battlefield games, but it was omitted from Battlefield 5, or it was severely toned down due to, I think, the more physical direction that DICE decided to take the game when it launched. Now, that direction was ultimately not really liked by the community, and so DICE is sort of rolling back on that change. So it's a system that was present in older games that's now going to be active in Battlefield 5, and the video in the background, that shows you how it's going to work. For the next video, we've got spotting changes. Update 5.2 is going to add a brand new feature to the minimap that will help you understand when you are spotted. Update 5.0, that made some massive changes to how effective spotting can be. Those flare gun buffs were particularly powerful. And so now in Update 5.2, we're going to see a new system that will help players know when they're spotted, since it is now easier to be spotted in the game. A new UI element will appear above and around the minimap, all in yellow or gold, and that informs you when you are spotted and visible to enemy players. You can see in the video that when the flare is fired up in the air, the minimap produces the yellow outline and it says you are spotted above it. Now, if you break line of sight from spotting scopes, or if you leave the radius of an enemy flare, if you shoot the flare out of the sky, or you enter smoke cover, then that will deactivate the spotting placed upon you, and it will deactivate the yellow outline on the minimap. This, I think, is a good step in the right direction. This UI update is going to give you clarity about whether you're spotted, and that is quite important. But DICE is also considering improvements to spotting overall, so that's just general, adding more counter-spotting elements into the game, and even adding spotting denial elements as well. But all of these won't be acted upon until Update 5.2 is out in the wild, and players can get a feel for how this new system is going to change with the recent patch. And then our third video here, we have a look at the Lunge Mine, or the Boom Broom, as DICE is so lovingly nicknaming it. It isn't currently working in this build of the game. As you can see from the video, the second time we make a lunge with the gadget, it doesn't properly activate on the tank, and it fails to do any damage whatsoever, which is obviously not what you want to happen. The Lunge Mine is being removed from Update 5.2, and it's being pushed back into the next update that will likely launch in the new year in January, Update 5.4, or whatever DICE is going to call it. DICE would rather get the item fixed and it be working properly than release something that is supposed to be good fun but could end up being really infuriating. I've got to say, it does look really fun to use, and it's a shame that it's not working properly, but it's the right decision to delay it nonetheless. Next on our exhaustive list of things coming in Update 5.2, we have community games. It is launching with Update 5.2. This is the long awaited rental server system for Battlefield 5 that will allow players to configure their own playlist or their own flavor of Battlefield 5 and put it in the server browser so other people can come and join. But it's great news to finally hear that Battlefield 5 will be getting the rental server system that its community has been asking for over a year now. It's great news that it's finally coming. Next up, we've got to talk about the Fliegerfaust because it is being changed with update 5.2. DICE has been monitoring how effective it is against enemy planes, and they have decided that its impact is in a bit of a need of a reduction. DICE has concluded that it is too easy for infantry soldiers to take down planes with the Fliegerfaust, so rather than just nerfing it into the ground, what they're going to do does sound quite logical. DICE is going to make adjustments to the rockets and how they interact with planes. Update 5.2 is going to adjust the detonation radius of the individual rockets so that they require a more precise impact on the plane. The radius of their explosion is being made smaller, so you can still fire them near planes and they will explode, but they will have to be a little bit closer to planes. I currently believe the rockets only need to be 7 meters away from the plane and they will explode, and they will deal full damage at 7 meters, so some changes were definitely needed there. The idea with this change is that when a plane is now flying across your vision and at a greater distance from you, you're now going to need a bit more deliberation of where you fire the rockets compared to where you do now in update 5.0. There's also going to be tweaks to the range at which the rockets can fly so that the Fliegerfaust can be used at much greater distances. The fire rate of the gadget is changing, projectile speed is changing, and the salvo size is being tweaked as well. The end goal is to make the gadget with a higher skill ceiling, but at the same time, continue to encourage pilots to think differently compared to before the Fliegerfaust was added to the game. So, quite a big update to one gadget, but time will tell if it was the right change. Update 5.2 is also going to introduce Wake Island to the game. The current plan is to deploy the map with the update and then activate it a little bit later on. So when the update is applied, don't expect to be able to play Wake Island straight away. It's probably going to be a few days or maybe a week after. Breakthrough, Conquest, Squad Conquest, and Team Deathmatch will be supported game modes on the map. And next week, DICE is going to be posting another blog post that will give us our first proper look at the map and maybe even some gameplay. Although I'm not 100% sure about that. And then lastly, 18 minutes into the video, DICE is going to continue their push to improve the sandbox feeling in Battlefield 5. I think most players will agree that the new Pacific content embodies that all-out warfare with more tools, more atmosphere, and just generally the game feels better. It feels more like Battlefield again. DICE is going to continue working on that feeling, and David Serland, a lead designer at DICE, he worked heavily on restoring Battlefield 4 with DICE LA back in 2014 and 2015. He is leading this Operation Sandbox initiative. We're going to hear more about that over the next few updates with the game, and lots of changes are being driven by the desire to bring back more of that epic chaos that we know Battlefield 5 can deliver. So that's great news on that front. And there you go. There we have it. You can all breathe now. 19 minutes of complete changes to Battlefield 5. There are some major things happening with this game at the moment. Some major changes to this game. And it looks like more will be coming in the future as well. DICE appears properly committed to Battlefield 5. And I think that's going to resonate across the community. If DICE is committed, then I think players will have confidence in the future of this game. Let me know what you think of all this down below in the comments. There is a lot to think about from this video, so any of the topics that interest you, leave me some comments. And make sure you check out the Born to Shield merch, again, including that new hoodie design, bit.ly/Westie shop. And if you enjoyed this video, smash a like on it for me. If you disliked it, then, well, you know what to do. Until next time, my name is Westie, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.